Hello and welcome back to From the BON, the Burnley podcast. I'm Simon Evans, and with me is Chris Boden, who was up at St James's Park in his capacity as a Radio Lancashire colour analyst, and back by popular demand, Julian Jordan, who is joining us from, where are you, Julian?
In that sort of hinterland between Lancashire and Yorkshire, otherwise known as Earby.
Earby, right, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so let's get into that one. 2-1 defeat, but the kind of performance that I felt gave some encouragement, but it was still another blow, 6 straight defeat. Chris, what did you make of it from your perch in the press box at St James's Park?
It's like we found another way to lose. You just you looked at the changes before the game and you thought, I mean, is this his last throw of the dice sort of thing? And real surprised to see Broja in the starting lineup. Surprised to see Perez in there, even though Hartman defensively hasn't been great for a few games. But I thought they tried to play on the front foot. I thought they caused problems early on. Certainly set plays. We must have had more corners in that sort of opening half hour or so than we've had in the last few games and put together. Ramsdale's flapping left, right and centre. Foster has a curler that goes just over. I think Brun Larson has a shot deflected wide. I mean, Newcastle were a threat, obviously, at the other end, but you felt we were very much in the game. And then, I mean, you have to say, Bruno's technique is magnificent, and I believe he has gone for goal.
I think so as well, yeah.
But Dubravka's got to be stronger. And having seen it a few times back since I come back, I'm left quite like wondering what Kyle Walker's doing at the far post as well. He can step inside and try and hook it clear, but he doesn't do a great deal, to be brutally honest. Yeah, and then it's we sort of conspire to hurt ourselves, don't we, before half time, really, and the game is up.
Yeah, I mean, Julian, it was a positive start. I mean, it seemed like the changes that Parker made were all fairly positive changes. But what did you make of it when you saw that team lineup come out?
My gut reaction at first, I thought I was, Perez. I'd been listening to Chris's tactical nous on a previous iteration of the show, and he said, they do like to get their fullbacks high up the pitch, and I thought to counter that, Perez was a pretty good option. So I kind of thought that sort of made sense, as you say. Hartman's not been fantastic defensively in recent weeks. Broja, I was surprised. I was really surprised to see him start. But it shows what I know after the conversation with Tony Dober the other weekend. Saying, is he going to ever come good? And I actually thought, he gave a good account of himself. And there's a number of times where we mixed it up a bit and we played long balls, and I've seen he seemed to win a lot of the headers and flick-ons and stuff, and he seemed to hold it up reasonably well. So I was kind of impressed with him. So it shows what I know, because I wouldn't have started him. The one player, I should also mention JBL. I think when he came on the other night as a sub, in the first 5 minutes on the pitch, he'd beaten his man twice, and I was saying there could be a drug test here, because it was like incredible. It's like, but in fairness to him, he carried on that form. I thought he did really well. So absolutely merited the start. I think the surprise for me really was Edwards, because I thought his cameo midweek, he started to make things happen really. So I thought he might have got a bit more time. Totally agree with Chris's analysis. I thought first 30 minutes we were really, really good. And I'd gone into that game fully expecting a defeat, so I knew I wasn't going to be too disappointed when the inevitable happened. But after 30 minutes, I was thinking, hang on, we're in this game. We could really get something out of this here. And then we had about a mad 15 minutes, didn't we? And I'd said last week, it's a cliche when everyone talks about fine margins, but we do seem to frequently end up just the wrong side of those fine margins. And, we're the wrong side of them sufficiently to be consistently losing games, but we're close enough to them those fine margins to make you feel like we're really not too far away from being a really decent team with just a few minor adjustments. Don't ask me what they are, what it would take, but I think if something clicks, we could genuinely compete at this level. But that, as I say, that last 15 minutes seemed to exemplify that, we're a team that can't buy a win, but good God, we can't buy any luck either. Because I think, the goal from the corner, I agree with both of you. I think he meant it, and I don't want to sort of detract from Guimaraes' skill because, what a finish. But I did think, and any criticism we can label our defence is one thing, but I actually thought Anthony Gordon impeded Dubravka. I said it literally as it happened, and then when you saw it back replay, I thought he's impeded there. Now, it would have been a bit soft, but I tell you what, if it had been at the other end and you'd had 50,000 Geordies hollering, I reckon that might have gone and they'd have checked it. And VAR needs to justify its existence, so they would have made a decision, wouldn't they? I don't think that would have stood if it had been the other way around, but it would have been soft. Nevertheless, there we are.
It's soft, but just to come in on that point, it is soft, and I agree, and I've looked at it a few times. And why I think it was a foul is it's not just part of the sort of general... I mean, there's always contact at corners, isn't there? Everyone's pushing and shoving a little bit. But he goes out of his way to do that. He deliberately makes that attempt to disrupt the goalkeeper with a foul. And it is only a slight touch on him, really, and it shouldn't be enough to disrupt or whatever, but it was just enough, probably. But it's the fact that it's very isolated. It's not part of a general pushing and shoving at the back post or anything. He's gone there deliberately to do that, and I would have called it for that reason. The other reason being I'm a Burnley fan, but, I think it was... What about the penalty decision?
He needs to make a meal of it and go over.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, we've made this point lots of times, haven't we? That unfortunately, unfortunately, that is the modern game. Yeah. What did you make of the penalty, Julian? Not the penalty, sorry, the red card.
Well, as soon as the challenge was made, I was sat with Jack, my son, and I said, "He's going. That's it. He's off there. So that's a goal. It's a goal scoring opportunity. By the letter of the law, he's got to go." I did think Elanga played for it a little bit, and I think he seemed to go down in instalments. He sort of staggered on for a few steps. I think he was determined to try and land in the penalty area. It was really unfortunate, actually, but I think by the letter of the law, he had to go, and I think it's really, really unfortunate because I thought Pires came into the game. He's got a start. It's the first time in a good while, and you could imagine him in a big stadium like that having a certain degree of nerves. But actually, I thought he'd acquitted himself really, really well. So I really felt for the lad. Actually, really unfortunate, but I can't argue. I've given you the sort of Dubravka was impeded through my claret tinted specs. I can't offer anything up.
Go on, Chris. I bet you can. Chris.
Well, I'm first and foremost. I was saying I was on the radio. I'm one of these who I look at Anthony Gordon in an England shirt and I demand more from him because I don't think he does it. He gives us enough final end product in an England shirt. I think he spends way too much time on his backside. That's why I call him Gordon. But he was terrific yesterday, and the pass is fabulous. It completely kills us, and he's not really tripped him, has he? Pires
brushed him, really.
He's just sort of brushed, yeah. And as Julian said, Elanga does sort of take an extra stride and go over, but I had absolutely no complaints whatsoever at the time. I think that's cut and dried, and it was cruel luck, because Pires had really acquitted himself well, but it's just you're thinking what else can possibly go wrong? You come off at half time, you're 2-0 down, and you played well, and you're down to 10 men, you might as well go home. Oh.
I mean, you say after that sending off, what else could possibly go wrong? Well, it did, didn't it? Because we conceded the penalty, again, I can't argue in our favour on that.
No,
one.
That was
clearly I'm bold. I think it was unfortunate though, because again, it was the man of the hour. Anthony Gordon was right on the scene, and I felt like he'd raised his feet quite high as the ball was coming over, and I think Ugachukwu, he seemed to raise his hands because he thought he was going to get kicked. I think that's what it was, but again, I can't make a case through
He's
Clarets.
unlucky there, and he really
Yeah, he is.
he has raised his hands in a sort of protective way, and then the ball hits it, and then our hands. It goes into that ridiculous discussion about natural positions, but they're always going to get given those. They are, but
he's facing his own goal. He's not deflecting a goal-bound shot. I mean, like I say, to go further into proceedings, I look at Ramsey at the end, who has actually purposefully deflected a goal-bound shot. Why has he not been sent off there? Yeah. Ramsey should walk. He's deliberately tried to deny Burnley a goal with his outstretched elbow, and he gets a yellow card. And then takes 3 weeks to walk off the pitch as his substitute. I'd have booked him on the way off as well. I'd have sent him twice yesterday. He's a lucky boy.
But yeah, I mean the thing with the Perez dismissal is, of course, if it had been inside the area, he doesn't get sent off, and you're then 2-0 down from a penalty, which is worse, really, in that situation. I was pondering that to myself. I'm thinking, like, if we'd have conceded a penalty, you've got a chance then to save the penalty, and then there's nothing's happened to you, as it were. Even if you let it go in, you concede another goal, but you've got an entire second half to play with 11 men, as opposed to trying to play with 10. But having said that, we did pretty well with 10 men, didn't we, Julian?
We did indeed. I just on the penalty incident, though, I think he was involved in everything in that first half, and Gordon didn't have to dispatch that penalty well, to be fair. Really hammered it into that bottom corner. But yeah, at that point, I thought, right, go and make a cup of tea. It's half time. We've lost. I'm sick of it, and hate everything. How you often feel in those circumstances. And I'd given it up. The game's dead. We've lost. And then they put in a really gutsy performance and showed loads of resilience, and that's, I think, where we can take some positives from it, because 2-0 down to 10 men, I thought we'd be on the wrong end of a hiding after that, but I just thought it was fantastic. And again, I'm going to hold my hands up, because I said I got it wrong last week in terms of Breuer, but I'd also said after the end of the Brentford game, it really looked to me like they were deflated, and the supporters who streamed out of the ground when that third goal went in seemed deflated, and I was concerned that might impact confidence in some way, and players would play within themselves, but that wasn't the case. They played confidently, and nobody was hiding, and I felt it's a day of real mixed emotions, because I felt really proud of that second half performance. I thought it was good stuff. I think you'd sent me a message, Simon, and I don't want to steal your thunder if it's something you were going to go on to speak about, but Danny Donachie,
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So he's. I don't want to do him a disservice, because I don't know his exact job title, but I think he's fair to say he's sort of a sports psychologist and performance coach, son of the famous Willie Donachie. And I looked at his comments, because he's been working with the club for 6 months or so, and he said that for the first 6 months, Burnley didn't lose a game, so he didn't know what it was like in terms of how that things would impact culture. But at that point, he was thinking, this is a club with a really good culture. He says, but when that culture is tested, when you're losing consistently, he said that's the kind of mark of it, really. And he said after the game yesterday that adversity is bringing people together at Burnley. So somebody on the inside is saying, this is a test of the culture, and the culture is standing up to it. I hold my hands up. I think I got it wrong last week, if that's the case, and I'm really, really pleased to hear that from a guy who's a professional and sort of intimately involved in those kinds of processes, in sort of the psychology of the team and working on their confidence and stuff. So, yeah, that's encouraging, and it's proven by that sort of second half performance too.
Yeah, I'd actually brought it up on screen, actually, that post on LinkedIn from Danny Donachie, because it is quite interesting. I mean, on the one hand, the sort of cynical journalist in me sort of goes, it'd be a story if the psychologist working with Burnley was saying that they weren't all together and on the same page and everything. But he's still gone out of his way to say this, so I'll just quickly read it, actually. We just lost 6 consecutive games in the Premier League, and I couldn't feel more proud. When I started at Burnley a year ago, we didn't lose a game for 6 months. It felt like a great culture, but it was hard to tell, because winning masks a lot. If you want to truly know a culture, experience it in moments of adversity. I've been with other teams in far healthier positions, and yet cracks were starting to show because the culture was weak. I'm seeing something different here. Adversity is bringing people closer, not further. I'm seeing players, coaches, and staff dig deep into their souls. That's why I'm proud to be part of this culture, surrounded by the men in the arena of the Premier League. It's the best league in the world, and it's a great teacher. And that men in the arena reference isn't accidental either, because, of course, Scott Parker referred to that poem earlier in the week as well. What do you make of that, Chris? When you sat there, did you see that from the players, the body language, the way they communicated with each other, that they are together and there is a good team culture there?
Well, put it this way. At half-time, you're 2-0 down, you're down to 10 men, and he brings on Joe Worrell, which I think many people presumed he's just going to bring Hartman on here. Probably sacrifice either Foster or Broja and bring Hartman on and play, one left back for Perez. So Worrell comes on, and Worrell's been overlooked. I mean, Josh Laurent's played ahead of him as a third choice centre half. He's, Twanzebe, when fit, has been deemed ahead of him. He didn't get much of a kick in the Championship, but he's brought him on, and I thought Worrell was magnificent. I thought he led by example. He could have quite easily. I mean, he's getting thrown to the lions there, isn't he? You basically, just you're going to be on the end of a pump him, and you're going to look dreadful. But he didn't. He got his head on stuff. He blocked stuff. He could and should have scored in the incident that led to the penalty. And I just thought, well, that sums up the spirit for me. For him to dig in and put in a performance like he did, and so you go back early in the season, the cup game against Derby, where he wasn't great, and I think we all think he is like Ekdal, he's short of pace for a centre half at this level, but he was battling and fighting for his manager and for his teammates, and I think we all see, like Laurent does, he exemplifies the spirit. They all did. They all dug in. They all dig in and put in a shift. And I was one of those who walked away pretty proud of things. We've won the second half, and it's one of them old things, and it means little in the grand scheme of things. But we've gone to Newcastle with all their wealth, and they're bringing on £55 million centre forwards and taking off £80 million centre forwards, and this, that, and the other. And we've beaten them 1-0 in second half with 10 men.
And it was nearly more, wasn't it? We shouldn't forget that little chance at the end where it felt like, I'm trying to remember the players who were involved in it, but
I think Edwards was involved, and I think it was Josh Laurent's header.
Edwards chips it in. Laurent gets a bit of a header on it, and there's somebody stood next to him as well.
Jane Anthony was on the left side, wasn't he?
Anthony's behind them all, but Fleming
was the one who was very close to him, wasn't he? Yeah.
We thought that Fleming had got a flick and taken it off Laurent, but then you look back and they're both almost looking at each other, aren't they, saying, "Well, go on then." Yeah.
And that was a moment where, I mean, it would have been incredible to steal a point.
But the picture, I've got my head in my hands. About 10 yards in front of me, Scott Parker's got my head in my hands. But then I come back and see all the highlights, etc. And Eddie Howe's exactly the same. He knows how close they were to surrendering the 2 points there. He thought that was it. He thought that was two apiece. That was telling to me. He was heart in mouth job, and I still can't believe it's not gone in. That what a ball in! What a ball in! That's what he gives you. Play him.
He didn't though, did he? I mean, he made an impact coming off the bench against Palace, Julian, but he didn't get the shout again, did he? He doesn't trust him for games like that, I don't think, does he?
No, I think that it goes back to the sort of comments that people have made about him being perhaps slightly lightweight, and that he doesn't track back. He doesn't have that sort of defensive discipline some of our other wide players have. But if I go back to my comments that I made on the pod last weekend, that notion of connective tissue. Right, we often play quite good approach stuff with neat and tidy, and we'll get to the sort of final third, and then we just don't have that bit of guile that unlocks a defence and gets you in and creates an opportunity. And so often then it'll come backwards or go inside, and we'll dither about with it. They've got all their players back into a good defensive shape, and eventually we lose possession and the other team breaks, and you see it so often. But I think he's the one who can potentially make that leap from getting to that final third and not creating an opportunity to being able to create an opportunity. So I think they should try and find a way to accommodate him. Coming on as an impact sub is fine, but coming on with about 3 minutes to go as an impact sub is a bit of a tall ask, and he still nearly produced for us.
I know, it's it. Yeah, I mean, maybe that is his role as an impact sub, but certainly if he doesn't trust him with the defensive work that keeps us in a game. But I tend to agree now. I mean, I thought at the start of the season, I thought last season when he was in the Championship, I was saying it, and it wasn't a popular view at that time, that I don't see him being able to do this in the Premier League. But the way we've played now, just that ball in there at the end, it's somebody who can unlock something, isn't it? And it's we keep going up against these Premier League closed doors without anyone who can just unlock it a little bit and create something. And we have the players. Have we got the players who can put the chances? I think Fleming can put him. His goal scoring record's not that bad this season. I know he's had a few penalties there, but he is somebody who could get on the end of something like that and steal a point, and it makes such a massive difference, doesn't it? But
you look at
moving on to the sort of.
Sorry. I mean, before you move on, I've been looking ahead to Saturday in Fulham, watching the Fulham game, and I know they've lost the game, but you look at Harry Wilson's goal, and that give and go is absolutely sensational, and the finish, and Edwards is capable of that. If the team is is banked in or hard to break down, or well organised defensively, you need that little, someone who can drive at people and beat a couple of people, or play a really sharp, snappy give and go. And I think he's the one in that squad who can.
I mean, this game does come in the context of an intense few days of debate over Scott Parker's future that reached the mainstream media as well as chat forums and Twitter and social media and so on. Do you think yesterday, and there's still some people out there saying not good enough from Parker, he's got to go, 6 straight losses and so on, but do you think yesterday bought him some time at least, Julian, if there is any question over his future?
I think it probably did, but I think I'd qualify that and say there shouldn't be a question mark over his future at this stage. I have been concerned about things over the last couple of weeks, and I just think the sort of the level of pressure and scrutiny he's been under, and I think he's usually quite calm and considered demeanour seems to, we've seen a few cracks in that in the last couple of weeks. There was the sort of comment a couple of weeks back about the finger pointing within clubs. That's the default option, which kind of raised a bit of a concern. We discussed it last weekend, and then there was the comment, albeit edited a bit notably by Sky, that saying we're going to fight, but at the end of the day we might not be good enough. Now he did go on to qualify that quite considerably. They aren't great messages, in terms of what the players want to hear or supporters, for that matter. Yesterday, his comments were quite different. He was saying, he was proud of the performance in many respects, so it is perhaps the best performance of the season. And I think that's really a rallying call, and the fact that he's been buoyed by the resilience and spirit of his team.
Chris, do you think yesterday has any impact on Scott Parker's position?
Well, it's all about results, isn't it? The whole sort of, conjecture around the Premier League. People don't often take performances into consideration. Someone said to me, like, "Oh, that's the 60 feet on the spin, isn't it?" I said, "Well, yeah." You look, they've played Chelsea within that. They've played Arsenal within that. They've been away at Newcastle within that. And we went 11 games without winning a game this season. We finished 7th and qualified for Europe. It can happen if you get. I mean, admittedly, the defeat at West Ham was lamentable. You don't. The minimum we should be walking out with there is a point. And when we equalise at Brentford, the minimum we should be walking away with there is a point. But I don't know. I don't see who else gets more out of this group of players. Like I said, this group of lads have demonstrated that they'll run through a brick wall for the manager. I don't, that second half exemplified that, and I don't see who else comes in at this stage and gets more out of them. I don't think he's tactically naive. I don't think he's, motivationally he's very good. He just, the lads are just, they've got an uphill battle because they are playing superior footballers week in, week out. It's just the nature of the the division. And Leeds, to give them the respect, that they're combining this with the energy from the Ellen Road crowd, which is as intimidating a crowd as there is in English football, and they're having a go at the moment. But we need to feed off the players at the moment and to give them a bit back, and it's a bit chicken and egg at the moment. But I think I'd be disappointed if they move now. Pace has shown patience with Vincent. And well, I mean, I've no idea where they would go if they were to part company with him now.
Yeah, I mean, I said before, I don't think it should even be a discussion point, but it's out there and people are talking about it, so we can't ignore it. But I don't think there should be any decision to be made at all at the moment. I mean, there are 3 games coming up now, which we've got. Next game up is Fulham at home, then we've got Bournemouth away, and then on Boxing Day, Everton at home. Those are 3 games where I think if I was Alan Pace and I was wondering, starting to get a little bit uneasy, let's say, about the situation, and can you stop this this losing streak? Those would be 3 games I'd be looking at and going, you know what? Let's see how we do in those. And what do you think, Julian? I mean, Fulham and Bournemouth, and then Everton. There should be some points there, shouldn't there?
There absolutely should, yeah. But I just going back to Chris's comments, because I totally agree with that. The sort of analysis of those 6 games, 6 losses on the bounce, but there's some really, really tough fixtures in there. And there's only been 2 really all season. I think there's only been 2 truly disappointing performances, and that is the 2 you mentioned, West Ham and Brentford. I don't count Man City because that's just.
Yeah,
we're always conceding 5 when we play them, aren't we? So even when they were shit, we'd concede 5 against them. So it's neither in or there to me when we play Man City. On going back to the question of the manager's position, if you had a trigger-happy chairman, literally this weekend, right now, is the time when they will be considering getting shut. Because you get shut to somebody now, especially with the run of games we've got coming up, you get your new manager in quickly. They've got December to assess the squad and to sort of come to some understanding in terms of what the requirement is in January if funds are available. I can't see it happening. I think it would be insanity if it did, right? Then you look at these 3 games we've got coming up, as you rightly say, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton. Well, Fulham aren't on a great run, and they haven't won at Turf Moor since, I think, it's the Stone Age. You'll be able to do. When was it? Is it something like 60-odd years, 70 years since they played Turf Moor?
Might be more than that. It goes back a long, long way, doesn't it?
Even the last time we played them, I mean, they were winning until deep into injury time, and we got it too old, didn't we? It's like that. I'm probably putting the hex on it now. I hope not, but it seems like they can't buy a win at Turf Moor. Bournemouth are on a terrible run at the moment, so there's something in that game. Everton, I think, might be a big, big ask for us because Everton are doing pretty well. 7th, I think, that they are at the moment this season. So I think that might be a tough one for us. But the first 2 of that run, you've got to fancy us for something out of those games. We need something out of them, really, to sort of get us back in touch because we're just falling a little bit adrift at the moment. I think we're 4 points from safety.
Yeah, Chris. I mean, these games. They are. I mean, we've looked at other runs of form fixtures this season and said, "Oh, these are where we've got to be picking up points." But if we don't end this 6-game losing spell in the next 3 games, we really are. It's all over, isn't it?
Well, put it this way: if it's 9 successive defeats, then it's you have to say it's all over. They would probably likely come away. You might be 4 results from safety, and you're not going to attract anyone in January, etc. So you have to take hope. I mean, Fulham are a super technical football team. They've got some decent depth there, but I say, like Julie says, the record at Turf Moor is absolutely pitiful. They're one of them teams that you sort of like, Turf Moor, cold December day, under the lights. The sort of occasion where Burnley have sort of, done ever so well against them in the past. But I just look at their squad and say, are you players that are going to do well in a dogfight or in a scrap? If we were to beat them, they're in a relegation fight with us. And I don't know if they've got the type to dig them out, sort of thing. So it's a big game in more ways than one. I think Saturday. If we can get the 3 points, that is a huge result. That's a Bournemouth's a funny one, isn't it? It's you don't know what they're capable. They're capable of picking up results against anyone seemingly, and they're capable of losing to anyone. Again, same with Everton. I don't think you can put your hat on anyone in this league. I mean, you're thinking Arsenal on the side that you can almost predict their results, and then they go and lose yesterday. Nobody backed that. See, I thought Liverpool wouldn't get any, wouldn't win yesterday, and lo and behold, it's a strange league. So we have to be. We've only drawn one game. If we're not going to if we can't win the game, the very least we've got to do is dig in and get a point. If we can get three points even and just stop the rot and let's start going the other way again, sort of thing.
I mean, the one thing we didn't discuss and we didn't have a chance to discuss, the suspension of Hannibal as well, Julian.
Yeah, it's funny. We've obviously compared notes here, Simon, because I'd made some notes before we started, and we've literally gone through mine in sequential order. I can't believe it. It's slightly spooked. And exactly. The next thing I'd written down was Hannibal, and I think in this run of games to have somebody with that energy, because I think at Brentford, I thought we were pretty woeful. I mean, I'm not saying he had a great game, but what I did notice was when they were out of possession, they were at it trying to win the ball back. All of them, they really wanted it, and we didn't seem like that. But the one player for me that really did seem to be working really hard was Hannibal. So when he's at it, I think he's a real asset. Now the problem we've got is temperamentally, he's one of these lads. He plays on the edge. And sometimes, he's not quite sure where the edge is and he goes way too far. And to the extent that in many, many respects, I think he's a bloody liability. And I just think, with all the stuff with the lad at Preston, it was the league game, not the cup game, wasn't it? Where there's the sort of the incident of racial abuse.
Yeah.
17 games with his combined incidents he's lost for them, and some of their fans are pretty classless and would still defend him in the sort of Hannibal circumstances. Firstly, I cannot defend Hannibal. If he's done that, he's an idiot and it's disgusting. Absolutely no need for that at all. Completely uncalled for, and that sort of stuff makes him a liability. If you look online, there are Burnley fans who are expressing their disgust at him and think, that's it. He's gone too far, get shut. Now, I wouldn't say that necessarily, but what I would say is he owes us big time. He owes us big time. And he needs. I don't mind him playing on the edge. I like that. Someone with a bit of fire. But, you've got to sort of focus that aggression in an appropriate way. Wind the opposition up by all means, but, don't cross that line. And I think if he can come back and having learned, then we've got a player. Now, bear in mind, this happened last season. Do you remember there was the incident in the Stoke game when he stamped on their lad and got a red? And he did seem to, when he got back into the team after that, he did seem to have a little bit more control in the way he went about it. But that with the Leeds fans, I mean, in fairness, they're giving him dog's abuse all afternoon because he's an ex-United player, and obviously there was a bit of overspill from the brilliant incident at Ellen Road when he got substituted and walked past their fans and really gave it to him large, which obviously sent him mental. So he's been getting a lot of grief, but you're a professional, you don't do that. So as I say, I expect big things from him because he owes us one.
Chris?
Yeah, it's one of those when it's. I've almost had it with him, to be honest. Like I said, the Stoke thing was unforgivable. he did improve. His temperance improved after that. But, even if he does get a bit of stick, you don't do that. No human being does that. It's absolutely appalling. But he then comes on in the game. It smashes Goodjohnson, doesn't he? Sorry, Goodmanson. Wins a tackle. Brilliant tackle. Gets the adulation of the whole stadium roars. But why does he then have to get in his face? It's just that. He gets involved unnecessarily in idiocy. And if his performances and his assists and his goal return justified that, I'd defend him. But I don't think he gives us that. He's man of the match for Tunisia against Brazil. We don't see. When we've seen that, we haven't seen it. So I said on Twitter, I said, time to shape up and ship out. To be honest, see a lot of the Burnley fans that responded to that said like, yeah, ship out. No, not bothered. We didn't miss him yesterday. He owes Burnley Football Club big style, but I've got to be brutally honest. I've got to this stage where I won't miss him if we didn't see him again in a Burnley shirt.
He's got to get a grip. He's got to get a grip because he's one of them players. The big question mark over him at United was mentally, and it wasn't just about these moments of madness either. People around United were saying, he's a very talented footballer, but has he got the right attitude for the 90 minutes? In lots of different ways, because the mental side of the game is more than just not being a dick, isn't it? It's there's a lot more to it than that, and he's failing the don't be a dick part, but is he also failing in other mental approaches to the game? And he needs to get that sorted because he does have talent. He's maybe not quite as good as he thinks he is. I think he does have some nice touches, and he can definitely make a contribution to a team. But a lot of the time, if we're talking about Hannibal highlights, it's where he gets the crowd going and he comes on, and we keep using this word energy. Well, what's his name out of the Happy Mondays gave a lot of energy, didn't he? You want more than Bez in midfield, don't you?
You don't get up to
Bez's energy, I think, was...
Bez's
energy was jet fueled, yeah. So,
yeah.
But I just looked up online, just checked out just how old he is, and he's 22. So in lots of respects, still a young player, but 22, still old enough to know better. To know better. He's a professional at the end of the day.
Do you think those team changes that Scott Parker made yesterday? Do you think there'll be more changes and adjustments to come at Turf Moor? I mean, obviously Perez is going to be out, but do you think he's desperately searching for some formula that works, or do you think he's going to maybe stick with Breuer in that role and Foster out wide? Did that work well enough to merit a second go?
I think it did, yeah. I mean, as you say, Perez will be out, so you'd imagine that'll be a straight swap. Hartman will come back into the team. I think on the basis of what we saw yesterday, I think Breuer, let's give him another go. That was his best performance by some distance. I'm enjoying JBL on the left. I think he's been doing well these last couple of games. So let's give it a go. The one thing I would say, based on our earlier comments, is is there a way we can fit Edwards either into the starting lineup or get him on the pitch much earlier in the game, because he's been the one who's provided that connective tissue that I've spoken about, and just as that bit of guile that unlocks things and creates an opportunity out what otherwise is just good possession and getting us up the pitch.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would like to see Marcus Edwards more involved, and I think probably it's more likely to be the second part of what you suggested, getting him on earlier than starting. But you never know. We'll see what Scott Parker decides. We'll be back later in the week to look ahead in more detail about that game against Fulham and any other news or developments that come out of Turf Moor over the next few days. Until then, enjoy your week and up the Clarets.